Hello, students. Welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 6 of lesson number 7, Diversity in Living Organism. Now, after this, we are going to have one more part where I'll try to complete all the 6 different phylums that have been left for kingdom Animalia, okay, in this part, and so that we can in the next part we can even discuss with the 6 questions or the 6 classes that have been given that comes under phylum vertebrata, as well as we can discuss that 6 questions which have been there. Okay, so this is how in the next part we are going to complete up with this lesson. But before that, the basic thing that the lesson wants to tell you all, or the lesson is giving us the knowledge on, like you can say, uh, we have n number of human beings, n number of plants, n number of animals which are present right around us. And classifying those organisms is a bit difficult if we are not aware of the name of that animal, if we are not aware of कि the animal belong to which species, and we are even not having that much use with respect to those animals, right? But the scientists and researchers who are present around us, they are working with respect to this different characteristics and criterias that we are not even aware of. Okay, we are not into that much of researching and all, so for us it doesn't matter whether we are knowing about any kind of microorganism or we are not knowing any kind of microorganism. We are knowing the advantage or we are not knowing the advantage, it doesn't matter with respect to our opinion, right? But when it comes to scientists and researchers, even small details about animals, about plants, about you can say the bacteria, fungi, the small things matters a lot around them. Okay, so they are very much curious. Now one thing being you can say being a researcher is they are very much curious. What are they are very much curious of finding things around them, because as I told you in the last class as well, we have harmful microorganism around us as well as we have useful microorganisms around us, right? So all the kind of microorganism that we are having, if it is a harmful microorganism and you're aware of that, yes, this is a harmful microorganism, it means you are studying that it with respect to certain thing where it is not working. But if you divert that thing where it can be made useful as well, the focus of the researchers are now that whether it is harmful in some aspects or some areas, it will be useful in the other aspects, right? So we are finding out the other aspects which is very important now, and it is all possible because of the biodiversity that is existing right now. Now you know the meaning of biodiversity means the living variation that is seen with respect to different forms of life on earth, right? If I talk about plant, if I'm not mentioning the name of the plant, it becomes quite difficult for y'all to find out कि I'm talking about which plant, right? If I'm telling you the characteristics of certain animals and if I'm not mentioning the name of that animal, it becomes very difficult. Like if I tell you that that animal has 4 legs, 2 eyes, okay, it is having a tail. Now there are many animals who are having 2 eyes, 4 legs, and a tail. So how will you come to know that I'm talking about which animal, right? So to find out the question onto this, what happened, as R.H. Whitaker, he was also into this, and he was admiring and noticing everyone that everyone is behind whenever they are starting the experiment. They're again starting studying all the things from the start, so from the scratch. So this was very much time consuming, as well as you can say the same thing was studied again and again. So that was of no use, because the basic motto of any of the researcher is if I'm performing an experiment, I should come out with something new. Okay, so innovation is a word that I can give to them. So they are always behind innovation, and they are bringing up the technologies so that all the things are possible within just a blink of an eye, right? So studying the diversity of living organism, abhi, as I told you that we have more than 10 lakh 10 million species which are existing on earth, but we are only aware of 1 or 2 million species. Now if I tell you to know about all the 1 to million species which is existing, will it be possible for you to retain all the information about all the 1 to 2 million species that we are aware of? Nahi na. You can't, like, it's a human tendency that we will not remember the name of those organisms which are found as well, right? So to solve this problem, R.H. Whitaker sir has classified all the plants, all the animals, all the fungi into different groups. And as you have studied the hierarchy of classification, you are already aware of how the hierarchy works, right? So see, we have a kingdom Plantae. I'm giving you an example, okay? We have kingdom Plantae. Now, as I'm telling it, kingdom Plantae, all the plants, they are going to come under this kingdom Plantae. So when I have to study about plants, I have to go on to this kingdom Plantae. Now I want to study with respect to one certain family, okay? Because family कैसे होती है, now how we are all families, we look like each other, we have the same characteristics, we have two eyes, we have two hands, two legs, we all are working, we have our circulatory system which is working in our body, we have excretory system, right? These are the common things that we are having within us, and that makes us a family. So same way we are going to go inside this, the family of the plant, like, because I have told you that suppose the first thing that we are having is the kingdom. After kingdom we have division for plants and phylum for animals. What do we have? Division for plants and phylum for animal. After this we have class, order, family, genus, species. So this is how the hierarchy has been classified, and this is the classification chart which has been followed, right? But we have started this lesson with the term evolution. Now, evolution is a slow and a gradual process that leads to innovation, and that leads to, you can say, changes which are being seen. Like, suppose if I tell you the first mobile phone, how was that mobile phone? And now, if I tell you the mobile phone that we are currently having in our hand, there is so much of evolution which has happened, right? And if I go, like, mobile phone जब नहीं था उसके पहले भी, if I go, were having that people were using pigeons, they were using pagers and all, and communication at that time was so much difficult, right? So evolution has happened, because of which now within seconds we are just a call away, right? But what is happening, slowly and steadily people are becoming so busy that even people can't have a call, and they can't even talk for a minute. Now the life has like, it has brought up to that stage as well, right? So this is all evolution which is taking place with respect to the surrounding, you can say, okay? So organism के case में भी it is the same thing. The organism are also evolving day by day. The animals, the plants, the fungi, the microorganisms, the viruses, they all are evolving day by day, and there are new things that are coming up within them. Like, we human beings, we were like, if you see the ancient time, we were looking like monkeys, and slowly and steadily, this is a slow and a gradual process which has occurred, because of which you can say that now we have developed as a multicellular complex organism. We are eukaryotic multicellular organism, and we don't have cell wall, right? Because one difference that you have studied with respect to plant cell and animal cell is, plant cell, they have a cell wall, they have a chloroplast, inside which they have a chlorophyll pigment which is helping them in performing the photosynthesis process, okay? And when it comes to animal cell, animal cells do not have cell wall, okay? Neither they are having chloroplast. Chloroplast nahi hai, so they don't have that chlorophyll pigment which has been present inside them, okay? So these are some of the differences which we have studied in the last class itself, okay? And I hope that you're clear with it. Okay, so see, we started with this evolution part, and we saw that time is a very much important factor. As I told you that evolution is a slow and a gradual process, right? So time plays a very important key factor here in developing the complex organism. from the simpler one, because पहले हमारा mobile phone कैसा था, it was very much simple, but now it has developed and we have a complex type of mobile phones that we are using. So like that way, here also the development with respect to organisms has been taken place from a simple organism to a complex organism. Okay. So, Charles Darwin, I'm repeating this in every part, that Charles Darwin, he was the first one. Whenever, as I call, as you know, that when I tell you your name of your best friend, you have a name in your mind, right? So when it comes to evolution, Charles Darwin is never missed because he was the first one who has given us this idea of evolution in the year 1855, and he has mentioned his idea in his famous book which is called as The Origin of Species. Now to y'all, it can be asked as a fill in the blanks question, like they can ask you to write the name of the famous book of the Charles Darwin where he have explained us the concept of evolution. So you should know that the book name is Origin of Species. Okay. So now what is happening? We, like earlier we were simple and now we are acquiring certain special characteristics within ourselves. What is happening? We are acquiring some special characteristics, certain changes within our body, and this is happening during the time period itself. Okay. And it is leading to what? It is leading to an advanced and higher organisms. Okay, so what exactly is biodiversity? The diversity of the life form that is existing is called as biodiversity, and here it is a word which is commonly used where we are going to refer the diversity of life forms which is being found in a particular region. Okay. And humans and the environment as well as our community, we all are affected by each other. Okay. Okay. And here I have told you to write two important definitions here, but firstly the definition of biodiversity, and secondly the definition of region of mega diversity. Okay, so there is a, you can say that the warm and the humid tropical regions of the earth, between them there is a tropic of Cancer and a tropic of Capricorn, where between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, there is a rich diversity which is existing with respect to the plant and the animal life. And because they are having this rich diversity, we call them as the region of mega diversity. What do we call that as? Region of mega diversity. Okay. So of the biodiversity which is existing on our planet, half of the diversity is being concentrated in few countries, like we have Brazil, we have Colombia, we have Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, Zaire, then we have Madagascar, we have Australia, China, India, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Okay. फिर biodiversity के बाद we have discussed on this hierarchy of classification, where we came up with three names, and all the three they were trying to classify the organisms. What were they doing? They were trying to classify all the living organisms into broad categories, and we call that categories as kingdom. So who was working on this and who were trying to classify the living organisms into broad categories? So the first category that we have is of kingdom. Okay. Now see, we have Ernest Haeckel. He was working in the year 1894, and his motto was also classifying the living organisms into broad categories. Then came Robert Whittaker in the year 1969, and he was the one who was trying to classify, and he actually did it. He has given us the five kingdom classification, right? And it is very much useful today, because if Robert Whittaker wouldn't have done this, it would be very much difficult for as to study with respect to each and every living organism. Okay, after Robert Whittaker, Carl Boyes in the year 1977, he was working on this, where he was trying to classify all the living organisms into broad categories, and it is called as kingdom. Okay, so the classification of Whittaker, he proposed five kingdoms. How many? Five kingdoms. We have kingdom Monera, we have kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Animalia. So these are the five different kingdoms which are being proposed by R.H. Whittaker, or you can say Robert Whittaker. Okay, now how the question comes is how he has classified all these five kingdoms. So you should know now till this thing that the groups have been formed on the basis of cell structure. Okay, how it has been formed on the basis of cell structure, mode of nutrition, source of nutrition, and body organization. Okay, so the modification was introduced here, like when Bose was studying in the year 1977, where he was trying to classify all the living organisms. What happened is he introduced here and he divided the kingdom Monera into two groups. Okay, so we have Archaebacteria, which is also called as Archaea, and Eubacteria, which is a bacteria, okay, which is in use nowadays as well. Okay, so these things you should know. The classification chart, you should know that firstly we have the kingdom, after kingdom we have this phylum for animals, and we have division for plants. Okay, so kingdom hai, phylum hai, then we have this class, after class we have order, family, genus, and species. So this is the most important thing which needs to be known. Okay, so thus when we are separating the organisms on the basis of hierarchy of characteristics and we are making small groups out of it, what are we doing? हमारा main objective क्या है? Why are we classifying all the living organisms? So that we get small groups where we can add on more number of organisms and we can study them all together. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are separating the organisms on the basis of hierarchy of characteristics into smaller and smaller groups, and we are arriving at the basic unit of classification. Where are we arriving? We are arriving at the basic unit of classification, which we call it as species. What do we call this? Species. So what organisms can be said to belong to the same species? And broadly we can say a species include all organism. Species के अंदर क्या होता है? Species include all organism that are similar enough to breed and perpetuate. Okay, what did I said? It should be similar enough that the organisms they can breed as well as they can, you can say, perpetuate themselves. Okay, so after this we started with discussing about kingdom Monera, where we have bacteria and Anaebenae. These are the two important examples of kingdom Monera that we have. Okay, so kingdom Monera के अंदर जो organisms आते हैं, they don't have a defined nucleus, they don't have organelles, neither they have multicellular body designs. Okay, on the other hand we can say that they show diversity. Whatever kind of variation that they are showing, that is based on other characteristics here. Okay, so some of the cells you will see that they are going to have cell wall, while some of them will not be having the cell wall. So of course if they are having cell wall or they are not having the cell wall, that plays a very important role there, because that is going to affect the function that they are performing, right? So after this, after discussing on the cell wall, whether they are having it or they are not having it, the mode of nutrition that the organism is having, either they are synthesizing their own food, they will be called as autotrophs. If they are taking it from the environment, then it is called as heterotrophic. And the examples of kingdom Monera, it includes bacteria, blue-green algae, which we also call it as cyanobacteria, and we have mycoplasma as well. Okay, after that we have this kingdom Protista to discuss. In kingdom Protista we have organisms which are unicellular and they are eukaryotic. What are they? they are unicellular and they are eukaryotic, and the organisms which are included under kingdom protista, they are going to have hair like cilia, which you can see in the paramecium ka diagram. They can have hair like cilia, or they can have this whip like flagella, as you can see in euglena. Okay, and this cilia and flagella is for the movement purpose, so that they can move from one place to another and they can move around. Okay, then after that, the organisms, they're going to have the mode of nutrition that they can have is either going, it can be autotrophic or it can be heterotrophic as well. Now you are aware of what is autotrophic and heterotrophic. Okay, so examples of this organisms which are included under protista, they are unicellular algae, diatoms and protozoans. Okay, so I hope you're clear with this. After that, we have third kingdom to discuss on, that is kingdom fungi. Now kingdom fungi में the yeast का example that we are having is Saccharomyces, mold का example that we have is Penicillium, and mushroom का example that we have is Agaricus. Okay, so fungi जो है, they are heterotrophic eukaryotic organism. What are they? They are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms, where you will see that some of the fungi, they are like, they require a living protoplasm, and they are going to use that living protoplasm of a host organism as their food, while some of them, they will be growing on this decaying organic matter, because that decaying matter becomes their food, and we call such kind of fungi who are growing on this decaying matter or decaying material, we call them as saprotrophs. Okay, so, and the second type of fungi that I told you, that some of the fungi, they even require a protoplasm of a host organism, so such kind of fungi we call them as parasites. Okay, so now many of the fungi, you will see that they will be having this capacity that after a certain stage in their life, they are going to become multicellular. What will they become? They become multicellular after a specific stage in their life, and this is a very important statement, that the cell wall of the fungi, that is having a tough complex sugar, and that tough complex sugar, we call it as chitin. Okay, what is what it is called? It is called as chitin. So the examples of fungi are mold, yeast and mushroom. Okay, and also some of the fungal species, you will see that they live permanently and they are having a mutually dependent relationship with blue green algae. किसके साथ उनका relationship होता है? With blue green algae, and such kind of relationship where both are getting benefited from each other, such kind of relationship is called as symbiotic relationship. And this symbiotic life, it forms like life forms, we call them as lichens. Okay, so हमने lichens देखा है, as they are growing, there are large colored patches which are being seen, those are called as lichens. Okay, after kingdom fungi, we had this kingdom plantae, and we are all aware of that plants are non-motile. We haven't seen plants moving, right? So plants are non-motile. We know that plants make their own food through the process of photosynthesis, right? So hence, we call these plants as autotrophs. What do we call them? We call them as autotrophs. Okay. Now the plants can reproduce sexually, as well as it can reproduce asexually as well. Now, if it is an asexual reproduction, then asexual reproduction takes place by vegetative propagation method. How does it take place? By vegetative propagation method, and plants are multicellular eukaryote with cell wall. When it comes to animals, what happens? Animals are multicellular eukaryotes without cell wall. Okay, as well as plants have chlorophyll, which is present in their plastids, which is helping them in making their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so along with this chlorophyll, plants have different organelles as well as which are present, which are helping the plants in anchorage, reproduction, supporting them, as well as in the photosynthesis process. Okay, so plants are multicellular eukaryotes with cell wall, because plants have cell wall within them, right? So they are autotrophs, they are making their own food, as well as they use the chlorophyll for photosynthesis process, and thus all the plants, they are included under this group, that is kingdom plantae. And as we know that plants and animals, these are the two most viable form of diversity which is existing around us. अगर आप अपने आसपास देखोगे, तो आपको प्लांट्स एंड एनिमल्स से रिलेटेड बहुत ज़्यादा डाइवर्सिटी देखने मिलेगी, राइट? सो दैट इज़ द रीज़न प्लांट्स एंड एनिमल्स दे आर फर्दर डिवाइडेड, and you are all aware of that we have 5 different divisions and 10 different phylums which comes, right? So हमने kingdom animalia में देखा है that this kingdom animalia, it constitutes all the different animals which is present around them, right? And we know animals don't have chlorophyll, they don't have cell wall, they are multicellular eukaryotes, right? तो हम किंगडम एनिमेलिया को क्लासीफाई कर सकते हैं 10 different सब फाइलम के अंदर on the basis of the design and differentiation pattern that they are having. Okay, so here it can include organisms which are going to be multicellular eukaryotes without cell wall, and we call them as heterotrophs. What do we call them? Heterotrophs, because they are dependent for their food on other plants and animals. Okay, after that we started discussing on this kingdom plantae, where we saw that we have 3 different level of classification which needs to be taken care of with respect to plants. So the first level of classification is we need to check whether the plant body has well differentiated distinct part or it is not having it. Okay, and if they are having that well differentiated plant body, so whether they are having any special kind of tissue like xylem and phloem which can help them in conducting the water and other essential substances to the plant. And lastly we have to see the ability where they are capable of bearing the seeds, and or else their seeds are enclosed within the fruit. Okay, so these are the 3 different level of classification that we have discussed. Okay, so the first division that we have is thallophyta, then we have bryophyta, and we have pteridophyta, which is divided into gymnosperms and angiosperms. And angiosperms are again divided into 2 types, dicots and monocots. Okay, so thallophyta के अंदर जो भी you can say plants आते हैं, these plants are mostly found in moist and wet places. And why they are found in moist and wet places? Because they don't have any true roots which are present, as well as they don't have vascular tissues like xylem and phloem which can transport water and essential nutrient from one part of the plant to another, and that is the reason they are always found in moist and wet places. Okay, so they are autotrophic in nature, and you will see that the plants which are coming under this thallophyta group, okay, they are able to perform, or they have that good capability that they can manufacture their own food. But there are few members like fungi who are again going to be dependent on other sources of food for them. Okay, so thallophyta is one who is going to reserve their food as starch. Okay, how do they reserve their food? In the form of starch. Okay, so plasmas, they do not have well differentiated body design. Okay, तो जिस plants के पास they are not having roots, stems and leaves, those who are not having this body design, they fall under this thallophyta group. Okay, and we call those plants as algae. And these plants, they are going to be predominantly aquatic. What are they going to be? They are going to be predominantly aquatic, and the examples of plants that come under thallophyta, they are spirogyra, we have eulothrix, we have cladophora, we have alva, and we have chara. So you can see the diagram which has been given of these plants. So these are the characteristics of thallophyta group that we have discussed. After that, the second division that we are having is of bryophyta. So bryophyta को हम बोलते हैं amphibians of the plant kingdom. What do we call them? Amphibians of the plant kingdom. And here you will see that bryophyta के अंदर जो भी plants आते हैं, their body is differentiated and they are going to form the stem and leaf-like structure altogether. Okay, but they are forming a differentiated part of the plant, but they are not going to have any special tissue like xylem and phloem which is going to conduct water and essential nutrient from one part of the plant to another. Okay, and examples of plant coming under this are moss, which is also called as funaria, and merchantia. Okay, so I hope you're clear with bryophyta as well. Now we have pteridophyta. So here you will see that the plant body will be differentiated into root, stems, as well as leaves. And along with the differentiated plant body, they are even going to have specialized tissue like xylem and phloem, who is going to conduct water as well as other essential nutrient and minerals from one part of the plant to another. Okay, an example of plants that come under pteridophyta, it includes Marsalia, ferns, and horsetail. Okay, and here we are going to have two different kinds of reproductive system. One, you once you will see that they are going to hide their reproductive system, and we call those plants as cryptogams. And the other, you will see that the reproductive parts are well differentiated, and they are ultimately going to form the seeds, and we call them as phanerogams. Okay, so here they are going to consist certain embryo, and wo embryo ke andar they are going to store the food which consists of which is going to assist the initial growth of the embryo during germination process. Okay, so we can further classify this group based on whether they are having the seeds or they are naked, or else you can say they are the seeds are enclosed within the fruits. Okay, so on the basis of the seeds, arrangement of the seeds that we are having, we have two different groups further. We have gymnosperms and angiosperms. Now gymnosperm is derived from a Greek word. Gymno means what? Gymno means naked, and seeds, sperma means seeds. Okay, so the seeds of this gymnosperm, the plant of this gymnosperms, they are going to have naked seeds, and they are going to be present annually. They are going to be evergreen and woody. Okay, perennial means they are going to be present annually. And the example of this gymnosperm, it includes pines and deodar. What does it include? Pines and deodar plant. Okay, then angiosperm, may we saw that this angiosperm is again derived from two Greek word. So angio means covered, and sperma means seeds. So the seeds are covered here, and hence we call this angiosperms as flowering plants as well. What do we call them? Flowering plants as well. Okay, so the seeds here, they develop inside an ovary, and now the seeds are going to get modified and they are going to become a fruit. So plant embryo in seeds, they are going to have structure which we call it as cotyledons. Okay, now cotyledons are what? They are seed leaves, because in many instances you're going to see that this seed leaves, they emerge out and they become green when the seeds are germinated. So here we can differentiate, or we can divide the angiosperms again into two different groups on the basis of number of cotyledons which are present inside. Okay, so if the plants are having seeds, if the plant seeds are having only one cotyledon, then we call them as monocotyledonous or monocots. And if they are having if the plants are having two cotyledons in the seeds, then we call them as two cotyledons or dicots. Okay, so I hope you are clear with this. Then we started with kingdom Animalia, where we saw that all the organisms under this kingdom Animalia, they are going to be eukaryotic, they are going to be multicellular and heterotrophic. Okay, so you all are aware of that animal cells do not have cell wall, right? So the cells, they do not have cell walls, and they are mobile, means the animals, they move from one place to another. Like plants, they are not non-motile. Animals are motile because they have to move from one place to another in search of food, mate, as well as you can say they move from one place to another. We have seen that, right? So they are further classified on based on the basis of the extent and the type of the design they are having. We classify them into 10 different phylums that we are having. So the first phylum is phylum Porifera. So Porifera ka matlab kya hai? Organisms with hole. Okay, so Porifera, they are going to be non-motile animals. They are not going to move from one place to other because they are going to be attached to a solid support. Now that solid support, it can be a rock as well. Okay, so there are some holes within the organism. So these holes will be present all over their body, and that hole leads to a canal system. Now this canal system which is present in them, that is going to help them in circulating the water throughout the body, so that they can bring in food as well as they can bring in oxygen. Okay, now if you have seen such kind of organism who are having pores on their body, उनका जो animals जो है, they are going to be covered with a hard outer side layer, which we can also call it as a skeleton. Okay, so the body design, it involves very minimal differentiation. What does it involves? Very minimal differentiation and divisions into tissue, and we commonly call them as sponges because they are mostly found in the marine habitat. And examples of the phylum Porifera, they have been given as Euplectella, Cycin, and we have Spongilla. Okay. Now, after this Porifera phylum, we discussed on the second phylum, that is Coelenterata, which we also call it as Cnidaria. Now, Cnidaria के अंदर जो भी animals आएंगे, the animals are going to be living inside the water, and their body is going to their body shows design differentiation. If you can see the design of the Coelenterata, the hydra and the sea anemone which has been given, you can see that the tentacles are present within their body, on the top of the body, right? So that is the design differentiation which you can see. And inside the body you will see that there is a cavity which has been present. Okay, so their body is made up of two layers of cell. एक cell का layer जो है, that is on the outside of the body, and the other is going to make the inner lining of the body. Okay, so we have outer lining of the body and we have inner lining of the body. So here some of the species, they are even going to colonize here, that is the corals, and while others are going to have a solitary like span like hydra. Okay, so jellyfish and sea anemones, these are the common examples of phylum Coelenterata or Cnidaria that we are having. Okay, so I hope you are clear with this Coelenterata as well. Now the third phylum that we are having is Platyhelminthes. Now Platyhelminthes means flatworms as well. Okay, so the body of animals who are coming under this Platyhelminthes group, they are going to be far more complexly designed. If you can see their body is complexly designed. And in the two other groups we have considered, like हमने जो Porifera और Cnidaria पढ़ा देखा है अभी, उनसे भी ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स डिज़ाइन किस में होता है? Platyhelminthes में. ओके, so here you can say that the body of this Platyhelminthes animals who are coming under this, it is going to be bilaterally symmetrical. Now what do you mean by bilateral symmetrical है? मतलब अगर if I am cutting that from the center, I will see that there is a right half and a left half of the body, and both the halves are going to have the same design. Okay, along with this there are three layers of the cell from which we can differentiate the tissues. Okay, because हमें पता है tissues से ही organ बनता है, right? So we have three layers of cell. We have endoderm, ectoderm and mesoderm, and that is why we call these animals as triploplastic. क्या बोलते हैं हम ऐसे एनिमल्स को? ट्रिप्लोब्लास्टिक. ओके, सो दिस अलाउज आउटसाइड एंड इनसाइड बॉडी लाइनिंग एज वेल एज सम ऑर्गन्स टू बी मेड, and there is some other degree of tissue formation as well which takes place because organ needs to be formed. Okay, but inside them there is no true internal cavity which we also call it as coelom which is present, जहाँ पे एक well developed organ को हम accommodate कर सके, ऐसा कोई भी internal cavity नहीं है. Okay, and if you can see all the structures together, you will find it out that since there is no true internal cavity, उनका body जो है that is flattened dorsoventrally, that is from top to bottom. If you can see, they are flat, right? And this is why we call these animals as flatworms as well. Okay, so this Platyhelminthes animals which comes under this phylum, they are either going to be free living or they are going to be parasitic. So the examples are Planaria, and if I talk about the parasitic animals, we have liver flukes. Okay, now after this the fourth phylum that we have is Nematoda. What do we have? Nematoda. अब nematoda का body is also bilaterally symmetrical and triploplastic. Bilaterally symmetrical का meaning क्या है? If I am cutting that animal from the center, I am going to get the right half and the left half that I am having, they are going to have the same design. Okay, so they are bilaterally symmetrical, and they are triploplastic, means they are made up of three germ layers. Okay, ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. However, you can see that the body of the animals that comes under nematode, okay, they are cylindrical rather than flattened. How is their body? It is cylindrical, right? So there are tissues but no real organs, although a sort of body cavity or pseudocoelom is present. So you will see that inside this body इनके पास tissues होगा, but there will be no real organs or any sort of body cavity which is going to be present within them. Okay, so these are very familiar as parasitic worms because they cause diseases. They cause some parasitic diseases such as the worm causing elephantiasis. If you have seen elephantiasis, अगर किसी को होता है, the legs they swell up like an elephant leg, and that is why we call this worms as elephantiasis, which is being spread by this filarial worm. Also, the worms in the intestine, which are roundworms or pinworms, which we are having. So, Escheriasis and Bucheria, this are all included under this nematode, phylum nematode. Okay, after that the next phylum that we have is phylum Annelida. Now phylum Annelida may we have the example of Nereis, we have earthworm, and we have lich. Okay, so annelid animals, they are also bilaterally symmetrical and triploplastic. Now these words are coming frequently, and I hope so that I don't have to explain you all it again and again. Bilaterally symmetrical means if I am having a cut in the body part, the right and the left half that I'm going to get, that is going to have the same design. That is the meaning of bilaterally symmetrical. They are triploplastic means they have three germ layers within them: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Okay, but in addition to this, they also have a true body cavity. Now, whatever phylums that we have discussed, they were not having a true body cavity, but the animals under phylum Annelida, they are going to show a true body cavity, and this allows true organs to be packed into the body structure. Now, because they are having a true body cavity, we can actually add through organs, and we can pack that inside the body structure of these animals like earthworm and lich. Okay, so there is thus extensive organ differentiation, and that is the reason you can see that the body differentiation is very much extensive here with respect to phylum Annelida. Okay, so this differentiation, it occurs in a segmental fashion. कैसा होता है ये differentiation in their body? It occurs in a segmental fashion, with the segmented lined up one after the other from the head to the tail. So if you can see, this is the head part, this is the tail part. So you can see that the body is there are different segments. Line can you see? Those are the segments which appear onto their body. Okay, so they are lined up one after the other from head. It starts from the head and it ends to the tail. You can see that the segments are present, right? So this kind of animals, they are found in variety of habitats. They are found in the fresh water, marine water, as well as the land. Okay, so earthworm and leeches, they are the familiar example of the animals which come under Annelida. Okay, so after Annelida we have Arthropoda. Arthropoda में we have a scorpion, we have butterfly, we have spider, we have prawn, we have cockroach, housefly, centipede. These are all a part of, you can say, Arthropoda. Okay, all the insects, they come under this Arthropoda wala phylum. Okay, so see, Arthropoda जो है, this is probably the largest group of animals that we are having, because we have n number of insects which are available, right? So that is why this phylum Arthropoda, it is the largest group of animals that we are having, and these animals, they are bilaterally symmetrical and segmented. Can you see the segments on their body? So we call them as segmented body structure, and they are bilaterally symmetrical means the left and the right half, we are going to get the same design, right? After that, there is an open circulatory system, and so the blood does not flow in a well defined blood vessel, since the circulatory system that they are having is open circulatory system. That is why उनका blood जो है, it is not flowing in a well defined blood vessel like it is flowing within us. Okay, and the coelomic cavity, it is blood field, the cavity that they are having inside them, that is blood field. Okay, so if you can see, all the insects or all the animals that come under this Arthropoda, they have jointed legs, because the word arthropod means jointed legs itself. Okay, so some familiar examples of phylum Arthropoda, they are prawns, we have butterflies, houseflies, spiders, scorpions, and crabs. So these are all examples of the phylum Arthropoda. So I hope you are clear with this Arthropoda as well. Now the seventh phylum that we have is phylum Mollusca. and it includes chiton, we have octopus, we have pila, and we have unio. Okay, so in the animals of this group means of this phylum mollusca, there is a bilateral symmetry and the coelomic cavity is reduced, मतलब जो उनका अंदर का inside cavity है, that is reduced, as well as the animals which comes under this group, they are going to be bilateral symmetry. It means if I cut this pillar, the right side and the left side that I'm going to get, they're going to show me the same design. Okay, and the coelomic cavity is reducing and there is a little segmentation. If you see on their body, you will see that there is a kind of little segments which you can observe on their body. Okay, so here they are also like the animals which comes under this phylum mollusca. They also have an open circulatory system and kidney like organ which is present for excretion. So circulatory system kaisa hai? Animals coming under mollusca, the circulatory system for them is open, and how the excretion process, which organ is helping for excretion? Kidney is helping in the excretion process. Okay, now there is a foot that is used for moving around. Can you see they are having foot? So unio, chitin, octopus, they have a foot that is helping them in moving from one place to another or moving around. Okay, after that, the example of the animals that come under mollusca, they are snails and mussels. Okay, so there are only short points, and once you understand the meaning of bilateral symmetry, once you understand the meaning of coelom cavity, once you understand the meaning of triploplastic, the answer becomes so easy. You just need to remember one example of an animal. Like for mollusca, you can remember octopus and you can write points according to it. You can remember octopus के पास बहुत कम segmentation होता है, उनका coelomic cavity reduce हो चुका है and they show bilateral symmetry. So octopus is having an open circulatory system, and for excretion octopus have kidney like organ which is present within them, and the food that they are having, they use that food for moving around. Okay, and the example of the animals that come under mollusca, it includes the snails and the mussels. Okay, after that, the next and the eighth phylum that we are having that comes under kingdom Animalia is called as phylum Echinodermata. Now just look at the pronunciation that I'm doing. Echinodermata. Now I know that the spellings, you will be confused with the spellings. It is difficult. I'm not telling that it is easy. It is difficult because you have come across to it for the first time. But as and when we are doing the revision, as and when you are studying by it yourself, you will come to know that that is not that hard. You can write it. If you're pronouncing it right, you can write it by your own. What it is pronounced as? It is pronounced as echinodermata. It's very much easy, right? So echinodermata in Greek, okay, it is derived from Greek word. Echinos means hedgehog. What is the meaning of echinos? Echinos means hedgehog, which means spiny mammals. The mammals who are having spine. Okay, so hedgehog means spiny mammal, and they have a derma. Derma means what? Skin. So echinodermata के अंदर जो भी animals आएंगे, they are going to have this derma which is called as skin, as well as they have this hedgehog. Hedgehog means what? They are spiny mammals. They have spines. Okay, so thus these are spiny skinned organisms, and these are exclusively free living marine animal. तो एकिनोडर्माटा के अंदर कैसे ऑर्गेनिजम्स आते हैं? द स्पाइनी स्किन्ड एनिमल्स, they are all included under this echinodermata, and they are exclusively free living marine animal. How are they? They are free living marine animal which have been found. Okay, now the animals that come under this echinodermata, they are triploplastic. It means they are having a 3-derm layer: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. Okay, so they are triploplastic and they have a coelomic cavity. What do they have? They have a coelomic cavity. Also, they have a peculiar water-driven tube system. What do they have? A peculiar water-driven tube system that they use for moving around. Now, for moving from one place to another, what do they have? They have a water-driven tube system. Okay, what it is called, water driven tube system, which is helping them for moving from one place to another. And they have hard calcium carbonate structure that they use as a skeleton. Now what do they use as a skeleton? There is an hard calcium carbonate structure which they are using as a skeleton. And the example of these animals that come under phylum Echinodermata, it includes sea stars and sea urchins. What are the example of this? Sea star, sea urchin, sea cucumber, and feather star. These are all the examples. Example of animals that come under phylum Echinodermata. Now as I am telling you, you need to know the examples as well. तो आप एक example याद रखो and वो animal के basis पे you can go on with the point. Okay. After that, the ninth phylum that we have is Protochordata. What do we have? Protochordata, and this is the diagram of Protochordata which has been given. It is Belanoglossus. What is the name of this? Belanoglossus. If you can see, it is having a proboscis. This is the collarbone. Then these are the gill pores which are present. These are dorsally curved genital wings. This is the anus. This is an hepatic caca. This is the hepatic region. Okay. So the animals which come under this Protochordata, they are bilaterally symmetrical. Okay, what are they? Bilaterally symmetrical. When I cut it from the center, the right half and the left half that I'm going to get, they're going to be similar. Okay, then they are triploplastic, means they are made up of three layers, and they have a cilium, that is a body cavity. Okay, so in addition, they show a new feature of body design, namely a notochord. So if you see, इन ये एनिमल के अंदर एक नया फीचर है, दैट इज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू देयर बॉडी डिजाइन, दैट इज वेरी मच डिफरेंट, एंड वी कॉल दैट एज notochord. What do we call that as? Notochord is present with them at least at some stages during their life. So when they are surviving, when they are living, at some stage they have this notochord which is present within them. So notochord is a long rod like structure. Chord means string. So can you see in the center? So notochord is a long string like structure that runs along the back of the animal, and it is separating the nervous tissue from the gut. So why is this notochord needed? Because notochord, it separates the nervous tissue from our gut, because it provides a place for muscles to attach so that the movement becomes easier. So for making the movement easy, this notochord is important, because it is going to separate the you can say nervous system tissue from our gut region. Okay, so protochordates may not have a proper notochord which is present at all the stages in their life. तो पूरी लाइफ में ऐसा नहीं है कि उनके पास एक प्रॉपर नोटोकॉर्ड प्रेजेंट है. नो, they don't have a proper notochord which is present at all the stages in their life or for entire length of the animal. Okay, so protochordates are marine animals, and that is the reason आपने उसको कभी लैंड पे नहीं देखा. They are found inside the marine. So they are marine animals, and the examples of this Protochordata are Belanoglossus, we have Herdmania, and we have Amphioxus. Okay, now after this, the last phylum that we have and that we are going to study about is phylum Vertebrata. Now Vertebrata जो है, so this animals, they have a through vertebral column and an internal skeleton. What do they have? एक through vertebral column होगा back side पे, and there is going to be an internal skeleton which is going to be present there, which is allowing a completely different distribution of muscle. Like what it is allowing, because they are having this internal skeleton and a vertebral column, it allows them to have a different distribution of muscle which has been attached to the point and which can be used for the movement purpose. So vertebrates, they are bilaterally symmetrical. Bilaterally symmetrical means when I cut that from the center, I'm going to get two equal halves and they are going to have the same design. After that, triploplastic means they are going to have three different germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm together. Okay, coelomic means they are going to have a body cavity inside them, and they are going to be segmented. Segmented means they have certain segments which will be present in their uh, body, and this all things leads to a complex distribution of the body tissue as well as organs, because we all are aware of that our body is made up of cells, When a group of cell come together, that makes up a tissue. When a group of tissue come together, that makes up an organ. And when organs are working together, they are in complete coordination with each other. The organ system is performing its best. They are performing all the functions all together. So we have a complex organism that has been made. Okay. So as I told you, that we get a complex differentiation with respect to the body tissue and the organs of this animal. Okay, now all the chordates, they are going to have certain common features. Like all the chordates, they are going to have a notochord, they are going to have a dorsal nerve cord, they are going to be triploplastic, they are going to have paired gill pouches which will be present within them, and they are going to be coelomate. So this 5 points should be kept a note on, that all the chordates, they are going to have 5 important features altogether. Okay, and with respect to this phylum vertebrata, we have 6 different classes which have been grouped here, which we are going to continue that in the next part. Okay, so the 6 classes that we are going to discuss with respect to phylum vertebrata. The first class is cyclostomata. The second class that we have is of Pisces. The third class that we have is amphibia. Fourth one that we have is reptilia. Then fifth one we have aves, and lastly the last class of phylum vertebrata that we have is phylum mammalia. Okay, so these are the 6 different classes of phylum vertebrata that we are going to discuss them in detail in the next part. Now along with this, we have a nomenclature system to discuss on, why there is a need for a systematic naming of the living organism. So the question is like asking ourselves why there is a name which has been given to us, right? So I hope you have got the answer to this. So we will be discussing about the 6 different classes of phylum vertebrata, about this nomenclature system. After that, we are going to have a summarized study of whatever we have discussed in this lesson, diversity in living organism. And we have 6 different questions to discuss. Like the first question is, what are the advantages of classifying organism? Now all the scientists were behind classifying the organisms into different groups, right? So what are the advantages the scientists have got out of it? Then the second question is, how would you choose between the two characteristics to be used so that you can develop a hierarchy in classification? Thirdly, we need to explain the basis for grouping the organism, and how are we grouping the organisms into 5 kingdoms. We might be, or the scientist R.H. Whittaker sir might have taken some characteristic points before grouping them. So we need to write that basis here. After that, the fourth question, we need to discuss on the major divisions that occur in kingdom Plantae, and what are the bases, what are the characteristics that we have undertaken so that we can divide this, we can have that divisions under kingdom Plantae. Okay, then the fifth question that we are having is, how are the criteria, what are the criteria that we are undertaking so that we can decide the division in plants, how it is different from the criteria that we are having for deciding the subgroups among animal. Okay, and the last question for this lesson will be, explain how animals in vertebrata, they are classified into further subgroup. Now we have studied about the characteristics of the phylum vertebrata, but we are left with the 6 different classes which we are going to discuss it in the next class. So in the next class you will come to know that on what basis and how we are classifying the subgroups of phylum vertebrata into 6 different classes. Okay, so here I hope that you have understood whatever we have discussed till now in this part. Now the rest of the part which has been left for this lesson, we will be covering that in the next part. Okay? Thank you everyone.